Hi YouTube, great to see you. Today we're going to talk about dialectic behavioral therapy, or DBT. So this is a relatively new treatment that I have been learning about. So I've just recently kind of dug into DBT and I wanted to share a bit more about it with you today. If you don't know me, my name's Sally. I'm a counsellor. I currently work with people who are doing behaviour change. I also work with people looking at their overall health and well-being. So that's a little bit about me, but now let's jump straight into it. So there's actually 4 elements of dialectic behavioral therapy. There is mindfulness, that's number 1. Number 2 is distress tolerance. Number 3 is interpersonal relationships. And number 4 is emotional regulation. So these are the 4 main elements of dialectic behavioral therapy. Before we get into those 4 main elements, there's 2 elements that I'm going to tell you more about. And before we do though, kind of overall, to kind of understand the concept of dialectic behavioral therapy, the word dialectic, it's a bit of a tricky one, dialectic. So dialectic means dia means like 2. So if you have a dialogue, that's like a conversation between 2 people. So dialectic means being able to hold 2 thoughts at the same time. I'll give you an example. So for me in my own life, I am working on obviously sharing the fact that I'm starting to take on counseling clients and starting to grow my counseling practice. And so that is a fact, I really want to do that. That's a goal that I have. At the same time, doing that, starting to share about that, is uncomfortable. So I have to sit with those 2 things. They're both true. I aim to grow my counseling practice, but doing it, putting myself out there, telling people about it, sharing it, making it happen, doing all the work is uncomfortable and kind of feels heavy, and I have to manage those 2 things. So I thought that's a really good approach that the therapy takes, because life is not always straightforward. It's not like, well, this is what I want to do and it feels amazing and I'm going for that. And so life is not like that. There's often 2 things that we're holding, and both are true, and it's where we go from here. So that's the first thing I want to tell you about dialectic behavioral therapy. Now let's drill down. So mindfulness, the first one, we'll just talk briefly about mindfulness. So mindfulness is just learning to be okay with the present moment. So there's a number of tools you can do that. I've taught you some tools on this channel already. So breathing practices, because as we know, we're breathing all the time. Breath, inhaling, pausing, exhaling. Breath is always happening. So mindfulness, being mindful of your breath, is a really nice tool that you can take with you wherever you go. When you need to just tune in, okay, I'm slowing down, I'm taking account of what's happening in the present moment. When our mind wants to take us away, or the current situation is taking us away from that real sense of mindful of the present moment. And mindfulness is a great tool to have. So in my sessions, I like to talk to people about practicing simple breathing exercises. Something like, box breathing, or just feeling your feet on the floor, being aware of your posture in space. So that's a tactile sensation, feel the clothing on your skin, that kind of thing. So that's one of the skills that you practice in DBT. We won't talk too much more about that. One I do want to talk about is distress tolerance. So that's the second element. So distress tolerance is such an important skill to learn. Now, when we are in strong distress, that's when often we might want to turn to more unhelpful coping strategies. So things like turning to alcohol, or cannabis, or other substances, or nicotine, or tobacco smoking, all those kinds of things. Where you're in so much distress, your brain is trying to comfort you, and it's trying to get you to have some kind of dopamine that isn't going to help with your distress. It might help kind of briefly in the moment, but it isn't a long-term strategy. So part of the distress tolerance that DBT teaches is called radical acceptance. And there's a term that kind of gets bandied around a bit, and that is, it is what it is. You might have heard that, it is what it is. I suppose that's a way of saying radical acceptance. So this is what's happening. I can't change it. It is what it is. So that's quite a useful tool. It's not very comforting, but it is a chance to kind of accept what's happening. When you are working on good ways to tolerate distress, you might want to just distract yourself. So distracting yourself by like picking up your phone, watching something on your phone. If you're working, then do some work. Anything that just takes you away from your emotional distress in the moment. Calling a friend, distracting yourself with the social interaction, asking for support in that moment if that's something that's available to you. So really, that's a major key. Like if you can manage to tolerate high levels of distress in your life, because unfortunately we are going to have moments of significant stress, and distress tolerance is an important tool to learn. Now, sometimes people, when they're really unwell and they go into, they feel distress, they might kind of even start to disassociate. So they might start to like kind of leave their body and feel like they're looking down on themselves, making all these terrible choices. So that would be like a really worst case scenario of someone who cannot tolerate the distress, who kind of feels like they need to leave their body because it's so unbearable. And that might be someone who's got a history of trauma or something like that. I suppose for me, growing in my faith and like turning to prayer sometimes. So, just asking for help in amongst the distress can be really helpful. So anyone who has like a faith practice might like to turn to prayer in those moments. Okay, so that's distress tolerance. The third one is interpersonal relationships, and this one is so important. So even if you're going great at your mindfulness, and even if you're great at your distress tolerance, I challenge you to spend time with, members of your family of origin, for instance, and stay in that calm state. So I think it was Ram Dass who said, like, if you think you are enlightened, spend some time with your family of origin. Not to say that we don't love our families, but our family of origin will tend to kind of bring up all of the negative ways of interacting interpersonally that we might revert to when we're around people close to us. It's kind of a strange situation, but it does happen. So interpersonal relationships is something we always have to work on. So if you've got some habits that you do with your friends, then managing those friendships through changing those habits, having boundaries, asking for what you want from your friends, and if they're supportive, they will help you with what you want. So interpersonal boundaries, interpersonal relationships are so important. And I made a video about that book by Henry Cloud and Townsend, the Boundaries book. That's a really good book. So I'll also link that video below. And the final element of DBT, which I won't spend too much on, is emotional regulation. So that is the ability to notice, observe emotions, and also being able to regulate them, helping to manage difficult emotions, and then also helping someone really to be able to sit and enjoy those real positive emotions. So sometimes people, when they're struggling, they're unable to find that joy and sit in joy and those helpful sort of more positive emotions. Okay, YouTube, so that's my wrap on DBT. I hope you found that interesting enough that you might dig and have a little bit more of a look into it. I just think that's so helpful and very pragmatic. I think all of us, when we're talking to people going through difficult times, having as many different little tools that we can use and offer to people. And having those words, like the words distress tolerance, I think is a really nice way to kind of summarize a lot of what we do in therapy when someone's going through a difficult time. Okay, so it's great to see you, YouTube. If you know someone who's looking for a counsellor, please get in touch. You can direct message me on Instagram. My handle there is @StudioChina. My name is Sally Waters, and I am growing my private counselling practice. So I have some openings at the moment. So please do reach out. Please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and share it with a friend who you think might find it helpful. All right, YouTube, great to see you. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.